Good day to all. I'm Praveen Parameshwar, CEO Lifeology. To talk to us about the careers in economics, we have perhaps the best person available in the world to talk about that topic, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi. Dr. Jebamalai formerly worked with the UNIDO, United Nations Industry Development Organization, as a principal economic advisor to the Director General, a very prominent economist, author, speaker, and also a teacher in economics. Dr. Jebamalai will be talking to you how we can develop our children's career in economics. So how to develop, what are the possibilities forward, what are the changes happening in that field, what you should study, your children should study to be a very prominent, well-known economist, and also how to craft, how to take the first step towards that career. This will be talking, presented in detail by Dr. Jebamalai. We will start with the first question to you, sir. We have a lot of parents around, a lot of children around listening to this video. The first thing which we all want to know from you, from the southernmost tip of India, Kanyakumari, you reached an enviable position for any economist in the world. What helped you to be there? That's the first thing we all want to know from you.
Okay, thank you, Praveen, for the kind words and giving me a great opportunity to share my experience and experiments with economics. Actually, I happen to be an economist by an incidental accident. When I was in the school, I was not a bright student. Somehow I passed all the exams. Eventually, when I joined St. Xavier's College for the pre-university course, my father asked me to opt for biology, thinking that I could emerge as a doctor. Eventually, this is the thinking in the Kanyakumari district, particularly in Kanyakumari district. Many parents want their children to become medical doctors. And then I joined biology. There also I didn't do very well. I was an average student. In fact, my academic performance was far below the performance of even an average student. I still remember what happened during the chemistry exam in the examination hall when the question paper was distributed. I was the only cool character among the classmates. I looked at the question paper, I started writing the answer. All my classmates were perplexed, looking at each other, some of them tearing the question paper into pieces. I didn't know what was going on. There was some pandemonium going on in the hall. Then I just ignored it. I started writing. After the exam, I asked my classmates, I told them when the question paper was distributed, you were all in a perplexed mood. What happened? Then they said, you don't know what happened. I said, I have no idea. They said 80% of the questions were out of syllabus. I didn't know even the syllabus. Look at my standard. And since 80% of the questions were out of syllabus, the Board of Examiners gave 40% moderation. And everybody passed, I also passed. What was required was only 35%. Believe me, even with the 40% moderation, I got only third class. Then I thought, okay, let me apply for BSc Zoology. So I went to the principal and submitted the application. And he said, you are really a stupid guy. I already wasted one seat in pre-university. You are good for nothing. There is a subject called refugee subject, that's economics. That means those who could not get admission for any other subject would be pushed into this subject. He said, I have already admitted 19 refugees, okay, useless guys. They are all sitting in room number 19A, second floor. You are admitted to economics, go and sit there. I went there and I was very, very demoralized. I was in a depressed mood. Then I was not at all interested in studying. And one professor of commerce, teaching elements of commerce, it was an optional subject. He was shouting at me one day. And since he said, why are you wasting your time, energy, and money here? Why can't you go back to your village and go for fishing? Then you can earn some money there instead of wasting time and energy here. Then I was really offended, little bit humiliated. Then I told myself for his quarterly exam, which was coming in the following week, I should really prepare myself and try to perform well. So I went to the railway station, Tirunelveli railway station, purchased Moore Market Bazaar notebook. That was very famous at that time. Moore Market Bazaar notebook. It is written in a very simple language, intelligible to everybody. That means even a man without one brain cell can comprehend what is it all about. So I was preparing for the exam. I read these topics for nearly 2 hours. Next day, when I sat for the exam, the question paper said answer 3 out of 5 questions. I gained the feeling that I could write the answers for all the 5 questions. I was freely at ease. And I thought, okay. Then I wrote all the answers for 3 questions. After 1 week, when the mark sheet was distributed, then I stood first in the class. I scored 46 out of 50. Even the lecturer could not believe that. That was a beginning of a new era in my life. I came back to the hostel room, reflected on the whole episode. Then I said, I just read a normal Moore Market Bazaar notebook for the exam, Elements of Commerce. I stood first in the class. 2 things I realized. Whatever is prescribed for me is definitely within my capability. All that I need to do is to spend time. These 2 things. It was very strongly registered. Next day onwards, I became a very serious student. People were surprised. The vice principal used to say, there is something in you. You are not the same Jebamalai. You are different. What happened to you? I became very serious. In those days, they used to keep the library open for 24 hours at the St. Xavier's College. So I used to take notes. First, I started taking notes during the course of lecture. And when I went back to the hostel, I used to read the subject in my own broken English. In fact, I was not able to write even one grammatically defensible sentence at that time. I was not good at writing also. So I used to read the subject written in my own broken English. I used to comprehend the subject. The real problem was language. So how to develop language to write it in a very analytical way, with analytical sequence, with the consistency, without any mistake. Then I used to go to the library, take one topic taught on that day, and then take at least 5 original books. I got rid of this Moore Market Bazaar notebook. 5 books, manually copying. In those days, you could not cut and paste. So I used to manually copy one sentence from one book, another sentence from another paragraph, and prepare essay of my own, completely copied, 100% copying, because I could not write. So after 1 month, I felt very comfortable. I could feel that I was becoming intellectually better off. So this was the origin of the whole thing for myself emerging. Eventually what happened, BA first class gold medal, MA first class gold medal, Raja Sir Annamalai Chettiar gold medal for being the best outgoing student of St. Joseph's College, Trichy. MPhil, highly commended thesis. PhD, I predicted, partly, I should be very modest, partly predicted the East Asian financial crisis 10 years before it occurred. This is the story of myself emerging as an economist.
So it's great. We started talking about economics, and you are now providing a lot of motivation to people around, because when people are scoring less marks or achieving less, so students as well as parents get a lot of worried that, here ends the era or here ends the life. But what you are providing now is a really motivating one. So, you could reach from nowhere to a lot of stuff. I mean, in a very high position in the world. So really motivating. So from the college, so what happened afterwards? You completed your PhD, and then how could you, how was the steps in your career? What took you to the UN?
Yeah. Fortunately, I got the job as a lecturer in economics. There were 11 candidates, shortlisted candidates, and all the 11 candidates had some experience. Okay. So when I was interviewed by the management and the professor of economics, I could answer all the questions, and the owner of the college was actually a medical doctor. He was very keenly observing me. In fact, the then professor who interviewed me was supporting a running candidate, because that guy was already sitting on a temporary post. They wanted to give him a permanent title of appointment. Then after the interview, the owner smiled at me, just smiled at me, and said, "We shall let you know." From the very smile I could see, he was totally impressed by the answers given by me. Next day, I got the appointment order. And when I got the appointment order, I told myself, the general feeling is economics is a boring subject, totally boring subject. I would make it lively. Believe me, I used to cook stories, relevant stories to teach each economic theory. Even today, the students are talking about it. And Kanyakumari district students have even formed a club called Students of Jeba. Even yesterday, somebody called. The worst thing is, the good thing is, one day I met a student and his daughter-in-law was telling me, sir, my father-in-law is always talking about your relevant jokes for teaching theories. I made it somehow lively. Then I went to Loyola College for 3 years, 77 to 80, Chennai. I was teaching there. Then I went to the UN in 1980. When I went there, I had some problems. When I was interviewed for a job in Vienna for the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, the chairman of the committee said, you have done something in economics. It is not the question of what you have, you see, what you can. What a fantastic statement. You have done MA, MPhil, PhD, and this and that. It is not the question of the degrees you have, but what you can. He gave me a paper titled An Optimal Industrial Structure for France, projected for the year 1990. It happened in 1980. Okay. I picked up the paper. Believe me, I had a lot of confidence to write a critical review of that paper because I was brought up that way by the professors of St. Xavier's College, Palangotta, and St. Joseph's College, Trichy. I was freely at ease in writing a critical review. After 1 week, I went and saw him. He looked at it and he was reading the first page, second page. While reading the third page, he said, now it makes sense, you see. And then he said, yes, and I was in. This is how I joined the United Nations. The whole thing came from the analytical frame of mind developed by my own teachers, who were primarily instrumental for that at St. Xavier's College and St. Joseph's College. I would give the entire credit to those two colleges. Yeah. Then I got the job. This is how I joined the UN. And believe me, at the end of the career, after having worked for 33 years, I have produced nearly 400 technical reports for UN, 210 reports for the country studies, most of them published by the UNIDO in co-authorship with the London-based Economist Intelligence Unit. 17 books I have written, and so many papers, scientific papers published in journals recognized by the Institute for Scientific Information. Yeah.
Sir, it's great, from Kanyakumari to Trichy and then to Loyola College and then to UN. So your journey is really inspiring and motivating. Sir, when people talk about economics, so when parents or students talk about economics, so I could always understand that they know economics as something great. They know economics is something influential, but they're not very clear about what is the real job of an economist in this world. Because if the case of a doctor we see in front, engineer many times we see in front. So what is the real job of an economist? Or if a student is becoming an economist, what they are going to do in their life? Could you please explain that, sir?
The job of one economist recovered American economy from the Great Depression of 1930s. The whole thing was due to the job of one economist. Please permit me to narrate. The American economy plunged into great recession and deep depression. It is called the Great Depression of 1930s. The whole thing started in 1929. So Franklin Roosevelt assumed office as the president. Everything, and it was unemployment rate was very high, inflation was there, so many people were losing their livelihoods, and all these things happened. Everybody knows. Then he said in his inaugural address, the only fear we have to fear is fear itself. And he requested John Maynard Keynes to treat American economy as the Keynesian laboratory and try to recover. He just introduced a very simple policy of pump priming. He said, pump more money into the economy. Okay, through the implementation of big infrastructural projects, utility service related projects, get people empowered in those projects. Let the money reach the pockets of the people. By pumping more money into it's called pump priming, pumping money into the economy and giving more money in the hands of the people, you are actually translating the want of the people, desire of the people into demand. This is called effective demand. Effective demand means, say, I want to buy a luxurious car. If I don't have the money, it is not demand at all. It's not effective demand. But when I am armed with enough money to buy the car that I want to buy, this is called effective demand. So that means want backed by desire, backed by purchasing power. So by pump priming, through pump priming, they enhance the effective demand of the people. When demand increased for goods and services, firms started producing goods and services. Then employment opportunities were created through this simple intervention suggested by an economist. The job of the economist, Americans could recover the economy. By 1933, there was full employment. This is the best story I can narrate to explain the job. Now, what is happening in India? Our Honorable Minister for Finance, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman, she just recently announced 20 lakh crores. It is nothing but pump priming, exactly what Keynes did during the Great Depression of 1930s. You believe me, it is going to work. Supply side constraints will be removed, demand side rigidities will be also removed, and you will see it will serve as a potential source of recovery and growth.
Okay, great. Sir, so being an economist, a person would be working with a university, one. Second, the person may be working in some research teams. So other than that, so what are the opportunities? I mean, career opportunities for an economist, whether it is a macro or micro, but where exactly the career opportunities for an economist resides?
The career opportunities are stemming from the competitive exams. You got so many competitive examinations here, banking exams, and then Public Service Commission, State Public Service Commission, and then Union Public Service Commission. If you look at the syllabi of all these things, economists have a much better opportunity to do that. And both in the compulsory papers and optional papers, even in general knowledge, and you see so many opportunities. Very often, actually nowadays, so many engineers and doctors are getting into the Union Public Service Commission. I could see that. It is good because the country today needs technocrats, really technocrats. I'm happy that so many engineers are becoming IAS, but the equal opportunities are there in this. The first the avenue is actually competitive examinations, series of competitive examinations that will give them a very good opportunity. Then, apart from that, they can also try to get into organizations, international organizations. People normally gain the feeling that it is almost impossible to get into. Now, people are getting it. I know it's very difficult. It is very difficult, if not impossible, to get into this. But when you follow the procedure, when you follow this in a very systematic way, you really get it. You apply for a specific job where the job descriptions befit your qualifications, and then sit for the exam. When you are shortlisted, you are called for professional testing, technical testing, and the personal assessment. It's called the personal assessment, professional assessment, and technical assessments. And there also, the whole thing starts with a written exam. They want to see to what extent you can analyze emerging issues and options. Basically, the economist is supposed to do is to analyze the emerging issues and options and deduce implications for policy action. This is normally economists are expected to do. And this is wanted everywhere in the corporate sector. For example, it is the economist, let us just talk about any development policy. Okay, let me put it like this. Well, it is increasingly proved that prosperity is essentially a matter of policy choice. Policy interventions serve as growth impulses. And most of the policy interventions are designed by economists, mostly by economists, not by others. So these are all the jobs of the economist. Yeah. Opportunities Great. Also. Okay.
Great. So that means mostly it means the economists can be teachers, number one. Yep. Number two, work with the policy framing organizations as advisors and people who do the research. Yep. Number three, they would be able to work with international agencies and organizations. Number four, they would be able to work closely with the consulting companies. And number five, as you rightly said, with every corporations and with every companies, the role of the economist is there to understand the market, to understand the scenario, and advise the company and the corporates to take the right policy decision. So this is where the job of an economist is.
To be very honest, intellectually honest, you recapped it much better than me. I purposely bypassed this teaching because you said in the question, apart from teaching. In fact, then I thought, let me not touch teaching. If you join any college as a teacher of economics, you can actually climb the ladder of career development. The secret is simple. You have to write some scientific paper scientific, and publish it in journals recognized by Institute for Scientific Information. That will affix the quality seal, professional seal on your performance. Then it will be very helpful for climbing the ladder. In fact, if someone writes around 15 papers over a period of 10 years, should be able to write at least one paper per year. Say 10 papers over a period of 10 years, you know the opportunities. You can easily get a job in Singapore or Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia with coveted salary. That's why whenever I go and give lectures to teachers in the college, I say, use it as a springboard. Try to enhance your professional caliber by writing scientific papers, which is definitely within your means. When I was writing my thesis, we used to spend actually 1 year to write a review of literature. Today, given the technological marvels, within 2 weeks, you can capture the global literature survey. You can do that. Make optimal use of that and try to come up like that. I would advise the teachers of economics to opt for writing scientific papers in order to climb the ladder of career development. Okay.
Fantastic. So to be an economist, so what are the basic skill set required for a person and how they can develop that?
A great analytical frame of mind and critical thinking. That is very, very important. And Praveen, you may recall my most recent book, The Poverty of Economic Thinking. I sent you 5 copies to Thoughts Academy, I believe it. Now, in that book, I questioned the economic ideas of all the economists from Adam Smith, who is supposed to be the father of economics, Adam Smith to the latest. That critical mindset is very important. See, Adam Smith, when he published the famous Wealth of Nations in 1776, Adam Smith is called the father of economics because he separated economics from ethics and politics. Before the publication of that famous book, economics was part of ethics and politics. And he separated and gave an independent status to economics. So that book is a very famous one. In that book, he says, the end of production is consumption. I questioned that. I said, today, the end of production is not consumption. The end of production is learning. And learning is continuous. When I produce a product, I want to learn from my customer. I want to learn from my supplier. I want to learn from the market trend. I want to learn from my comparators. I want to learn from my competitors. So on the basis of learning I get from different sources, I try to effect further improvement in order to make my product superior over others. So learning is continuous. Then famous economist David Ricardo said, countries are supposed to convert their resource-based comparative advantages into competitiveness. It is called the famous Ricardian theory of comparative advantage. In that book, I say, today the Ricardian theory of comparative advantage is dead because today countries are enhancing global competitiveness not based on their resources, but on the human ingenuity. Using human ingenuity as the infinite source of wealth creation, countries are enhancing global competitiveness without comparative advantage, without resource-based comparative advantage. Singapore is the best example. So I say that the Ricardian theory is dead. Even John Maynard Keynes, I criticize him. He said, when President Roosevelt invited him, he said, we should not worry about long-term vision. We should worry about only the short-term because in the long run, we are dead. I am saying nations never die in the long run. Each nation should have a long-term vision. See, 10 years ago, most of the countries used to develop vision 2020, something like that. I prepared the industrial sector input to vision 2020 for the Nigerian economy. You know. And Chief Chonakin was the head of this one, the former civilian president. He was very fond of my input. After 15 years, they invited me. I was in I was in Malaysia. They invited me to rewrite. So he said, you should rewrite your inputs to Vision 2020. Then I thought it was a typing error. I said, what? Then I wrote to them, why are they calling it 2020? Is it a typing? It's a typo. Then they wrote to me, no, this is the correct one. You should rewrite the inputs for 2020. What they meant was, by 2020, Nigeria should be one among the top 20 countries. This was the thing. So long-term vision is a must. So it is said that vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. What is needed is a unique blend of vision and action. And I totally disagree with John Maynard Keynes. And I would say each country should have a long-term vision to transform the economy and society. This is what is called critical thinking. You know, the critical mindset, analytical frame of mind are the two ingredients to be developed by an economist.
Wonderful. So it's like for a student, maybe most of our parents have children in their teenage. So for a teenager, so what should be the courses they have to study, maybe in +2 and then in degree and then for post-graduation. So of course, what should be the courses they have to opt to build up a career in economics?
Actually, at the +2, they decide what will be their future. At that point, they decide. Many go for biology, many go for, the economics and commerce, they take it. Those who are conditioned to take economics and commerce, from that day onwards, I would kindly request them to replicate what I did when I wanted to be a serious economist. Take notes during lecture, number one. Take notes in your own language. And then when you come home, you just reflect on it and try to get into all the social media. You can just use the YouTube, listen to some of the lectures, best lectures on the same topic. You will better comprehend what you learned in the classroom. And then try to write essay of your own, write it. And now you can even, to be honest, you can even cut and paste. So you are not writing for the exam, you are writing you want to create a stuff of your own on each topic, and don't go to bed before you finish that. When I started to be a very serious student, every day I used to go to bed at only 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock something. Unless I finish that day's homework, I will not go. If you want to be, even at the 12th standard, if you are determined to be a great economist, do that and try to read at least The Economist, the magazine. And the Economist magazine, published by the Economist Intelligence Unit, covers everything, through the region, you know everything, what is happening across regions, countries, and everything. And that will be a great broad source of information that will sharpen that. This, I go back to the original statement that spend time on that. You at that stage itself, you decide, I want to be a brilliant economist. See, by the time you join any institution, for your undergraduate degree, you will be in a much, much better position to emerge as a better economist.
Wonderful. Sir, it's like, many times when people decide to read or people decide to listen to lectures for a teenager, and if the parent is not very well aware of what is happening in the economic field, so the key confusion come into their mind is what to read, who to listen to, and so what are the topics which I should focus on? So if you just give, shower some light on that. So what to read, who to listen to, and what are the topics to think about?
Yeah, okay. Of course, a student is there certainly conditioned to listen to his lecture. And the lecturer should first realize that one cannot listen to another person for more than 20 minutes. According to the educational psychologist Skinner, the human mind cannot listen to another person for more than 20 minutes. In order to keep the students under the captivity, intellectual captivity of the lecturer, it is important that the lecturer sparks relevant sense of humor during the course of teaching. That's many lecturers don't do that. That is why very often students very often say it is totally boring or something like that. You start the day with something that happened in the city on that day related to economic development. There may be an announcement by the central government or the state government, some new scheme, or giving the subsidy to something like that. Today's announcement, spend at least 5 minutes on that during the lecture in the beginning, and then you listen to the lecturer very carefully. And then when you come, if you want to acquire additional knowledge, you can always key into the YouTube and listen. But the journals, they have the papers they have to regularly read is the Economist, then Financial Times, Economic Times. I think the Harvard Business Review. These four will do. Because Harvard Business Review furnishes case studies. They want you to learn and unlearn, learn good things from the best practice, unlearn bad things from the worst practice. They give you all types of case studies. And eventually it is possible that one day you can emerge as an entrepreneur. That is a very good thing. And these things, whatever contained in the Harvard Business Review, particularly Harvard Business Review. So I just recap the whole thing. As to the sources of journals and the papers, The Economist, Financial Times, Economic Times, and Harvard Business Review. That will do. That will be more than sufficient. Yeah, on a regular basis, just to read that and glance through, and whatever
Great.
of immediate interest to the current topic, then make notes and add to your essay and this and that. Yeah.
So it's like for a student, who is just preparing to get into the field of economics. So many times it would be great if parents can suggest some of the good books. So the journals you said, the magazines you said, and YouTube you are suggesting. So any 3 books which a parent can suggest to this child to read to get the basics of economics stronger. So other than what is the normal academic textbook at their school. So if you suggest any 3 books, which if a child read, so they get a very good perspective about economics and can have a solid thought about it.
There is summary of Adam Smith's book. The Adam Smith's original book is covering 2,000 pages. And there he wants to prove a very, very simple fact that man is essentially, basically self-centered. The self-centered motive of the man stimulates him to earn some money. It becomes personal wealth. So when individuals' wealth are combined, it is wealth of nature. This is the key message. And the key message of the book is man is primarily self-centered. Whatever he does is a reflection on the self-centered motive of the person. Very systematically, empirically, scientifically proved. That book is a must, what Adam Smith talked about. The Keynesian general theory is another one. 2 basic books, the John Maynard Keynes general theory. In fact, many economists used to criticize the Keynesian general theory. That means they say that Keynesian general theory cannot be generalized. And they used to say that Keynesian economics is a plant which cannot be transplanted into a foreign soil. If it is transplanted into a foreign soil, it dies there, becomes poisonous before it dies. And they used to say it is useful only for American economy, not anywhere else. Now, but the economists always criticize each other. That's very normal. And that is one of the reasons why economics is still a well-developed and still developing subject. Okay, John Maynard Keynes' book. Then Amartya Sen's book. Amartya Sen has written a lot on. You can read that, and I think I will recommend all the books and they're written by Amartya Sen. This will give a very, very good picture, and there are so many new books coming up. There are so many books coming up. I would very strongly recommend these things, and the Adam Smith book, then John Maynard Keynes' General Theory, and all the books of Amartya Sen. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's really a good advice to the parents as well as children. I said, nowadays we are talking about this VUCA world, intervention of technology, artificial intelligence, data analysis. So the people we are always listen to the technology changes happening around. So how far the technology changes happening around is influencing the field of economics, the career of an economist? And so how far it is influencing and how a child should prepare for, to be competent in this changing technology world?
Excellent. I'm happy that you are asking me this question. In fact, my PhD thesis was on sources of growth. And from the demand perspective, I decomposed the sources of growth into internal demand, external demand, and the import substitution. Then all that I needed was the data, MBA data, that means manufacturing value added data. Okay, let me simplify it. Output data for all the segments of manufacturing from food processing to miscellaneous, ISI categories, that is actually 28 subsectors. Then I collected the data, used the famous formula given by Hollis Chenery, a famous economist. I decomposed that. I realized that in India, the domestic demand accounts for more than 90% of growth in all sectors. All the sectors, domestic demand accounts for, and export demand played a major, only a minor role. In Republic of Korea and Taiwan province of China, the external demand accounted for 90% of growth. This is from the growth perspective. But I was always worried about how about the incidence of technical progress? I'm coming to your point. Why this formula is not capturing the incidence of technical progress? So with the help of a programmer, see, in order to use the technology, I don't have to do that. I'm not a programmer, I'm an economist. I can always get the assistance from your programmer. I say, I want to decompose the sources of growth in the internal demand, external demand, import substitution, and I want to highlight the incidence of technical progress also. He gave me a nice program through which I could capture that. And you need to also detail a lot on that. And what is the role of the low technology, medium technology, high technology, and sophisticated technology? And then we realized that these technologies, according to the degree of industrialization and level of development, play a different role across countries and continents. If you talk about the countries as a whole, the successful countries, well-developed countries, countries of OECD countries, that means the developed countries, the newly industrializing countries, second generation of newly industrializing countries. If you look at the overall picture of technology in exports, production, everything, you will see, it's let me put it like this. You ask a simple question: what drives world trade, and why some countries are doing better than others? World trade is today triggered by high-tech and sophisticated technology based upon products, accounting for more than 80% of the global manufacturing value added and more than 82% of manufactured exports. This is the global reality. The next question is, you want to be part of the global reality or out of context? If you don't do that, you will be out of context. That is why the countries which are engaged in the production of and high-tech products and sophisticated products triggered by the incidence of technical progress do well, much better than others. But you can say that, so how can labor-intensive operations be ignored, and why should we concentrate on high technology? It may lead to unemployment. No, I don't mean that. Actually, there is always an exaggerated imagination about all these things. And let me give you one product, food product. Okay, on the cover, the price is indicated. You attach an electronic impulse to the price tag that changes the price of the product as the product approaches the expiry date. It is sophisticated technology which is increasing the sales potential of your product. It does not lead to unemployment at all. Like that, you can identify so many products. So you cannot afford to ignore technology. And today, I'm happy you made a reference to the disruptive technologies. Disruptive technologies are making the old system stumble. You know that. Disruptive technologies are creating a situation that is called creative destruction. Creative destruction. And every time when a new technology is coming in the market, there is always fear of unemployment. See, when computer was introduced in Kerala, let me cite the example of Kerala. Computer was introduced, even the ruling party, Communist Party was ruling the state, they also supported the agitation against computers, saying that all the typists will lose job. You may recall. You please recall, when it happened in Kerala, all the typists would recall. So we are all against computers. Look at the millions of computer-related jobs created. And today, Kerala is encompassing 3 state-of-the-art tech parks. Today, Kerala, see the transformation. We did not realize the implications, indirect and direct impact on employment. So if we had not opted for computers, thinking that typists would be unemployed, we would be in a very bad state of affairs. You know that. Like that, as to the disruptive technologies, I will kindly permit me to just mention them. Advanced digital manufacturing production system, artificial intelligence, additive manufacturing, augmented reality, big data management, then cloud computing, 3D printers, Internet of Things, Internet of Services, Internet of Energy, everything. These are all disruptive technologies, which are actually transforming everything. So I wonder, see, let me just relate it to the current situation here. What is the role of the economist in the context of disruptive technologies and the COVID-19? The current situation is underpinned by 4 L's: life, okay, livelihoods, then lifestyle, and liberating with the virtual world. Let us talk about life. We have to save life. In saving lives, there are so many promising product areas which can create employment opportunities. Economists can analyze that. The economist who says that. So this, in saving lives, again, there are so many things. You actually commercialize the research findings. I can just cite one example. so many institutions have discovered so many things, and most of the research findings are not used at all. Not that they don't get the patents registered and they don't commercialize it. And when I was in Sudan, I realized that a research institute invented the extract from a wild plant which grows in the desert. You don't plant, you don't water, you don't manure. That essence can heal open wound of a diabetic patient. The market is to the tune of $50 billion. And they could not get the patents registered for want of money and technical assistance, and it is yet to be commercialized. Like that, in the case of COVID, now the traditional medicine is used, medical practices and used by our great parents, and based on the traditional knowledge. This can be commercialized. Patents should be registered. So in saving lives also, there are so many product areas where entrepreneurs can capture niches and emerge as great entrepreneurs. Then a lifestyle. It was an economist who said the demand for casual wear, casual dress will increase dramatically, and when the demand for formal dress will decline. It happened because 80% of the people are working from home, means they will be wearing only casual dress. Don't you think? And it's really happening. This is discovered by the economists, not by anybody else. Then the liberating with the virtual world. Everything will be in the virtual world hereafter. Schools may disappear, colleges may disappear, universities may disappear, and this may happen. I would call it open innovation and value creation network in the virtual world. Open innovation means if you have the enhanced adaptive capabilities and skills to use modern technology and to commercialize new knowledge, you can participate in the global value chain. All these things, emerging opportunities and viable avenues of reducing your distance to the frontiers of the best practice, technological frontiers of best practice. All these things are not done by economists. All these things are done by economists, not by engineers. So economists have a crucial role to play in addressing the issues, current issues, and in making the society benefit from the so-called disruptive technologies, which are going to rule the world now.
Okay. Great. So, just to recapitulate, so the point is like the economists should focus more and more on the theories, the concepts, the ideas of economics, and look around what is happening. But at the same time, they should not keep themselves distant from technology changes, but rather use the changes in technology for the benefit of their work and make the work smoother using technology. Correct? Okay, sir, you were talking a lot in detail about, maybe for the parents who are listening to this video and the children who are listening to this video, it is really enlightening. Just to put the points in order, it's like you were talking about number one. So economics is about understanding the economy. So, and helping the governments, companies, and even people to frame the right policies and the right practices. That is one. Second, for that, a person who is into 12th should opt for the right studies in humanities and economics and go to the BA and then the MA in economics. So, and it would be great if they can read Economic Times, The Economist, Financial Times, magazines, and Harvard Business Review type journals in detail. And listen to the YouTube channels in detail. Listen to YouTube channels and get understanding about the concept is really great. And when coming into books, Adam Smith, Keynes, and Amartya Sen. So maybe the must read for any economic aspirant and economic student. And the job avenues are mostly with the colleges as teachers, research organizations, consulting companies, international organizations, and the government organizations. There you get the job. And to be an economist, it is very important to have the analytical framework of mind and the critical thinking. And you should not keep you distant from the technology, but rather use every disruptive technology to make your life easier as an economist. So this is, this is what the entire talking is.
You did it very well. I would like to add one more point. And now, if at all they are encouraged to do economics, the next question is where to study economics.
Absolutely, that's where I'm just coming to. Very important.
They should not worry about the top 10, top 20, top 10. Please, I don't believe in that. I know if you look at the top best departments to study economics, you have the Department of Economics, Dayan University, Loyola College is indicated, and St. Xavier's College, Calcutta is indicated, and the Delhi School of Economics. I would say, wherever you study economics, it's up to you. You have to make optimal use of even the limited facility available in any institution. And by virtue of the technological marvels, you have access to everything. You can learn everything. You can, so many free online courses are there. Harvard University is offering an array of courses. Come on, get yourself registered. Spend time on that. It is up to you how to make optimal use of whatever is available. For me, personally, the institution does not matter. You matter. Everything depends on you, how you handle it, how you make the best use of whatever is available and emerge as an economist. And because very often you don't get admission to this place. You cannot apply for it because you are not. They admit only limited number of people. Everybody cannot do economics at Delhi School of Economics. It's not possible. So I would say, irrespective, don't worry about the institution or department or anything. And wherever you study economics, just to follow whatever both of us suggested now, and they can definitely emerge as great economists and contribute to the country. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. I'm just asking a last question, which is a bit away from the context of the discussion we have been doing for the last half an hour plus. So you are a person who traveled to more than 120 countries and interacted with people from every countries in the world and studied about the changes happening across the world. So a lot of parents are watching us now. It is about so what is the key message you want to give to parents about grooming their children? That means, what are the, I would say 3 main points the parents should focus on when they're grooming their children to be global citizens?
Okay, excellent. Any organization, you always get into some type of intellectual confrontation with the intellectuals. You are intelligent, they are also equally intelligent, maybe they are more intelligent than you. In that context, at the headquarters, I had some problem. But my policy is to always look at only the positive aspects of others. I ignore the negative things. Because I am not perfect. No one is perfect. And my own attitude towards that person will further strengthen his positive qualities, and eventually his positive qualities will outweigh negative qualities. I am saying it because eventually I wanted to run away from a supervisor. Every day there was an intellectual fight. Then I opted for field assignment. I requested the management to assign me to the field. I was posted in Sudan when the war was at the zenith of it, when the war between Southern Sudan and North Sudan, 2 million people killed, 4 million people displaced, completely displaced. When I was posted there, in the UN country team meetings, I felt enormously incompetent even to make interventions because I was not relevant there. In a conflict-affected country like this, 2 million killed, 4 million stranded, most of them starving. Everything was humanitarian-centric. All the interventions were to just feed the starving population. In a context like this, if you go and talk about our mandate, ecologically friendly and technologically advanced means of fostering sustainable industrial development, they may say you are mad. So no one wanted to look at us, and then I wrote to, it's a good message for the students listening. I wrote to the headquarters and to the counterpart, Ministry of Industry. I said, I feel enormously incompetent to make interventions here. Even the Secretary General's special representative once said, you need to, what are you doing here? That means you are irrelevant here. Then I thought, let me, how to survive. Then I told the management, and leave me in peace for 6 months. Let me conduct a survey as an economist and come out with a program. And that, if that does not work, dismiss me. Then if you don't use the word humanitarian in that context, you are out of context. So what I said, in one region called the Nuba Mountain region, and people maintained a durable peace. Both factions, fighting factions, signed the peace agreement. They maintained a durable peace for 3 consecutive years, not even single violation of the ceasefire agreement. Then they were asking the international organizations, the government, the NGOs, to give them sustainable sources of livelihood, not the food for work and the genetically modified American wheat to be distributed or dropped by WFP aircrafts, World Food Program aircrafts. No, they were asking for sustainable. Then I thought, why can't I go to this village and ask the young boys and girls who returned to the areas of origin, IDPs, internally displaced person, returned to the areas of origin, that is Nuba Mountain region. I went there and prepared a simple questionnaire as an economist, okay? Tell me, what are your priorities? 1, we want to own a piece of land. 2, we want some assistance from international organizations to cultivate the land, increase agricultural productivity, reduce post-harvest losses, and to get into some type of semi-processing activities and further processing into final products. I captured a niche there. I thought, there is some relevance. I called the program Humanitarian Plus. If you don't use the word humanitarian, you don't get a grant. So I applied for the $1.4 million to the UN Japanese contribution to the UN Trust Fund for Human Security. I redefined human security as an economist. Human security should be in terms of sustainable sources of livelihood. So if there is no livelihood, if people don't have access to food and there is no availability of food, then it is insecure. They accepted. Japanese ambassador highly commended me. They immediately released 1.4 million. To make the long story short, believe me, within 3 months, through simple interventions, we eradicated extreme poverty in 147 villages. 3 years, nobody wanted to look at me. And after 3 years, when they heard about the impact and compact of our interventions, from the target beneficiaries, World Bank sent a team. They assessed and then they wrote, you can Google that document, community-based development in Sudan, lessons learned. In that report, they say, what UNIDO does is the best model for post-conflict recovery and development in terms of sensitization, target beneficiaries, local empowerment, tangible impact, and sustainability. And when the report was out, European Union gave $12 million to replicate the same. Then UNIDO mobilized nearly $36 million to replicate this simple intervention. And this is more relevant today in India for the migrant workers. They have all gone back, most of them have gone back to the areas of origin. Some of them stay in the areas of choice. Many don't want to leave Kerala. I know that. And most of them went back. There is no source of income. That's why they came here in search of source of income. Now, when they go back, what I experienced and experimented with the Sudanese migrants in Sudan may be relevant here. Give them a piece of land. Give them technical assistance and business support services as public good and increase their employment opportunities. Get them empowered in that one and create a sustainable and thereby create sustainable sources of. So the Sudan experience, I tell you, I took Sudan mission as God sent gift to be the voice for the voiceless, hope for the hopeless, and job for the jobless. And that will not be erased from my mind till I breathe my last. I thank Almighty God for the great opportunity. This happened because of the confrontation I had with somebody. You got it? From each bad thing, you always be nice to everybody. Look at the positive things. If the other guy is actually going beyond intolerable limits, politely withdraw. And from each bad thing, there is always something good stemming. Okay. This is the advice I would like to give to the students. I would request the parents to tell the students.
Great, great. So I think to develop, when a child wants to develop a career in economist, so and the parent is at a position to give the child advice. So these would be the right things which they can keep in mind. Whereas, so you were talking about the job of an economist. So the skills needed to be an economist and the courses to study, the universities to go for, and what would be the priority a person should give when they're choosing the university, and the books to read, the journals to read, and also how to interact with technology to be a greater economist. So it is really a pleasure for our parents and children to listen to you, because the principal economic advisor to the Director General of UNIDO may be the right person to advise our students how to craft the career as an economist. And the empowering, you are the right person to empower our parents to advise their children how to, build up and develop a career in economist. So thank you very much for your great words.
Give me 1 minute. I have seen many students of economics, even after completing PhD, remain in the state of joblessness. What I have seen is, believe me, when they are constantly at it, in getting a job, one day they hit it. Within a period of 3 or 4 years, the PhD holder in economics manages to get something befitting his background, and he is doing very well. This is what I have seen. So what the parents should tell the children is, in life, each challenge is an opportunity. You may be forced to be in the state of joblessness after getting even PhD, but each challenge is an opportunity. Your personal and professional response to convert challenges into opportunities and opportunities into personal wealth creation is a discovery process. And I am sure economists will definitely discover the process. Okay.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for the time you spend with us, for enlightening our parents and students to be, to build up a great career in economics. Thank you very much for the valuable advice you have given to us.
Thank you. Thank you for
Pleasure
the great
pleasure to be with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.